in the hallowed Hall of Mirrors at Versailles, a new era was forged in iron and blood. German aristocrats gathered to proclaim Wilhelm I as emperor, marking the birth of a unified state. Otto von Bismarck, the brilliant architect of this empire, stood as the first imperial chancellor. His vision transformed a fragmented land into a formidable European power that would change history forever. Prussia emerged as the beating heart of this new German empire, securing political dominance through strategic warfare. By defeating Denmark and toppling the French Empire, the Hohenzollerns reshaped the map of Europe. While the Austrian Habsburgs saw their ambitions crumble, the unification of German lands under Prussian leadership became an undeniable reality. This shift in power signaled the end of French imperial dominance. The Austro-Hungarian Empire became a political giant with feet of clay, struggling to maintain its multinational diversity. Meanwhile, the defeat of France led to the Treaty of Frankfurt, forcing the surrender of Alsace and Lorraine. This annexation, though celebrated by German generals, would later be viewed as a critical strategic error. It planted the seeds of a deep and lasting resentment within the French. For the next 40 years, the recovery of lost territories became the central aim of French policy. Historians note that turning Germany into France's principal enemy fundamentally altered international relations. The desire for revenge simmered beneath the surface of European diplomacy, creating a volatile atmosphere. This period of anxiety and intellectual tension defined the era, as the continent braced for an inevitable future confrontation. In 1873, the Berlin Victory Column was erected to celebrate the three wars that unified Germany. Designed by Heinrich Strack, the monument was crowned with a bronze figure of the goddess Victoria. This towering structure embodied the grandeur and triumphs of the new empire over its enemies. It stood as a permanent reminder of Prussian military might and the successful birth of a superpower. Berliners affectionately called the Victory Column the Golden Elsa, a symbol of endurance through a century of history. Just as this monument stands as a beacon of progress, modern tools like Chat LLM by Abacus AI revolutionize our creative workflows today. This service acts as a unified hub, providing access to top-tier models like GPT and Claude, ensuring every prompt receives the best possible results. Abacus AI serves as a creative laboratory, offering access to advanced video and image generation tools like Sora and Flux. These technologies allow us to visualize historical ideas that are impossible to film, bringing the past to life with stunning realism. Whether you are a student or a professional, the system handles the heavy lifting of design, allowing you to focus entirely on content. The Abacus AI Deep Agent is a powerful assistant that builds apps and websites even for those without programming knowledge. Previously, such tasks required a massive stack of separate services, but now everything is gathered in one affordable place. For just $10 a month, users can access a full suite of development and design tools, empowering anyone to become a digital creator. Otto von Bismarck maintained power for nearly 20 years by playing a complex game of diplomatic chess. His primary strategy was to isolate France and keep Russia as a friendly ally to prevent a major European war. Through realpolitik, he rejected further expansion, deciding that Germany had enough land. He focused instead on domestic stability and economic growth, carefully avoiding unnecessary bloodshed on the continent. Bismarck feared a war on two fronts and worked tirelessly to prevent an anti-German coalition. He united the German, Austrian, and Russian emperors in an alliance to control Central and Eastern Europe. This partnership allowed them to monitor rebellious groups, such as the Poles, who sought independence. Additionally, Germany maintained ties with the Ottoman Empire, viewing them as a potential ally against Russian influence. The Balkans were a minefield of tension between the major powers of Europe. Bismarck understood the danger and acted as an honest broker during the Congress of Berlin in 1878. He sought to extinguish diplomatic fires before they could spread into a general war. His goal was to balance the competing interests of Britain, Austria, Hungary, and Russia, ensuring that no single power dominated the region. During the Congress, Bismarck navigated the fierce opposition between Britain and Russia regarding hegemony over the Ottoman Empire. He followed principles established in secret meetings to prevent Russian dominance in the Balkans. Bismarck also advocated for the civil rights of Jews in the region, showing a rare humanitarian side to his cold diplomacy. His efforts kept Constantinople in Ottoman hands and maintained a fragile peace. The Treaty of Berlin reorganized the borders of southeastern Europe, with Britain taking control of Cyprus and Austria-Hungary occupying Bosnia. While independence was recognized for several principalities, these compromises created new waves of tension. The rivalry between Britain and Russia intensified, leading to the era known as the Great Game. Bismarck had avoided war, but he could not control the escalating national conflicts in the region. As friendship with Russia grew fragile, Bismarck created the Triple Alliance with Austria, Hungary, and Italy as a fallback. This military bloc ensured that if any member were attacked, the others would defend them. Despite his success in Europe, Bismarck remained opposed to colonial expansion, viewing it as an unnecessary burden. However, domestic political pressure eventually forced him to reconsider Germany's role in the global scramble for land. Germany eventually occupied territories in Africa and Oceania, including Cameroon, Togo, and German Southwest Africa. These acquisitions were more a concession to domestic politics than Bismarck's personal desire. Historian Erich Hobsbawm described Bismarck as a world champion of diplomatic chess who successfully maintained peace. However, the system he built was so complex that it began to crack the moment he was no longer in control. In domestic politics, Bismarck balanced between conservatism and liberalism, transforming the empire into a European superpower. However, his Kulturkampf campaign against Catholic influence led to a prolonged conflict with the Pope. He also launched a large-scale Germanization of Polish lands, viewing it as a matter of national control. For Bismarck, defending German interests meant suppressing any internal movements that could threaten the unity of the Reich. Bismarck portrayed Poles as enemies of the Reich, arguing that Germany must defend its language and interests from Slavic influence. The anti-Catholic campaign hit Polish communities especially hard, as their faith was central to their identity. Government policies pushed the Polish language out of schools and public life, aiming for total cultural assimilation. This struggle for control created deep-seated resentment that would last for generations to come. Rumors spread that Germanization was the only way Bismarck saw to resolve the Polish question. The campaign escalated to the point where the Primate of Poland was imprisoned and mass deportations were organized. Despite these harsh measures, the result was the opposite of what Bismarck intended. The Polish movement grew stronger, with families turning to homeschooling to preserve their language and culture against the state's aggressive pressure. The conflict with the Catholic Church reached its peak in 1872 with the expulsion of the Jesuits. At the time, the papacy was in a weak position, having lost its territories to the Kingdom of Italy. Bismarck sought to limit the Church's influence over marriage, family, and education within his empire. He believed that the state, not the Church, should have the final authority over social life. In 1873, the May Laws placed schools under government control and created a special state court for church affairs. Pope Pius IX declared these laws invalid, but Bismarck refused to back down. The empire ceased all financial support for the Catholic Church and seized its property. This period marked the height of the Kulturkampf, a struggle for the soul of the nation between secular power and religious tradition. The conflict began to subside after the death of Pius IX in 1878. Bismarck, shifting his political course toward conservatism, found common ground with the new pope, Leo XIII. This reconciliation allowed the empire to focus on other challenges. However, the year 1888 would bring a new crisis known as the Year of the Three Emperors, which would fundamentally change the course of German history. After the brief reign of the ill Frederick III, power passed to his son, Wilhelm II. The young and ambitious ruler immediately clashed with the aging Bismarck. Their relationship quickly deteriorated, leading to the Iron Chancellor's forced retirement in 1890. Wilhelm II wanted to rule alone, without the shadow of the man who had created the empire. This marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new, aggressive path. Bismarck's departure was welcomed by some who felt he had become too dominant. The creator of the empire spent his final years writing his memoirs, a loyal servant to the first emperor, but a critic of the last. He died in 1898, leaving behind a legacy that was both brilliant and controversial. His sarcophagus bore the humble inscription, "A loyal German servant of Emperor Wilhelm II, a final jab at Wilhelm II." With Bismarck gone, his complex alliance system began to crumble. Wilhelm II chose a more aggressive course, leading to a nightmare scenario, an alliance between France and Russia. Germany now faced the threat of a war on two fronts. At the same time, the German colonial empire grew rapidly, making it one of the world's top three colonial powers. The era of cautious diplomacy was over, replaced by global ambition. In 1897, the phrase, "a place in the sun," became a rallying cry for German foreign policy. The empire demanded recognition of its interests and rights on the global stage, refusing to be pushed into the shade by other powers. This shift from defensive realpolitik to aggressive global ambition signaled a new era of confrontation. Germany was ready to fight for its influence in the East and West, regardless of the consequences. Germany's course changed from Bismarck's cautious defense to Wilhelm II's aggressive global policy. In 1903, the Grand Baghdad Railway project was initiated to connect Constantinople to the Persian Gulf. This was a direct challenge to British influence in the Middle East. Although the railway was never completed due to the First World War, it stood as a symbol of Germany's desire to expand its reach far beyond Europe's borders. The Baghdad Railway was a massive undertaking, spanning 1,600 kilometers through present-day Turkey, Syria, and Iraq. It represented a strategic threat to Britain's route to India and its dominance in the region. This project, combined with Germany's naval buildup, pushed Britain and France closer together. The geopolitical landscape was shifting, and the competition for resources and influence was reaching a breaking point as the great powers prepared for conflict. In 1904, Britain and France formed an alliance, dealing a blow to Germany's international standing. A year later, the First Moroccan Crisis erupted as Germany tried to disrupt French influence in North Africa. This move only served to strengthen the bond between Paris and London while isolating Berlin. The world was becoming increasingly divided into two armed camps, and every diplomatic crisis brought the continent closer to the brink of war. The Algeciras Conference of 1906 recognized France's special rights in Morocco, further damaging Germany's relations with the other great powers. By 1907, the formation of the Triple Entente between Britain, France, and Russia accelerated Germany's diplomatic isolation. The final straw was the Second Moroccan Crisis in 1911, when Germany sent the gunboat SMS Panther to the port of Agadir, a move that many saw as a direct threat of war. Negotiations eventually resolved the crisis, with Germany receiving territories in Central Africa in exchange for recognizing the French protectorate over Morocco. However, this compromise did not heal the rift between the nations. Europe was taking another step toward a global conflict. The German Empire had become a superpower, with a massive army and the second-largest fleet in the world, a fact that caused deep dissatisfaction and alarm in London. Over half a century, the German Empire became the leading economy of continental Europe, with the longest railway network and a colossal industrial breakthrough. The steel empire of the Krupp family and the arms factories of Rheinmetall turned the nation into the continent's main producer of weapons. This economic power was not just for prosperity. It was a deliberate preparation for the greatest war the world had ever seen. By the early 20th century, Germany dominated the global market in steel, cast iron, and chemicals. Giants like BASF and Bayer were world leaders, reflecting a nation at the peak of its scientific and economic influence. This was a time of immense pride and preparation. The German people saw themselves as the vanguard of progress, unaware that their industrial success was fueling a machine that would soon consume the continent. German scientists received a third of all Nobel Prizes in physics and chemistry during this era. Innovations like the gasoline engine by Carl Benz, the diesel engine, and the Zeppelin airship changed the world forever. From the Geiger counter to the first commercial automobile, Germany was a global leader in technology. This scientific brilliance provided the empire with the tools to dominate both the marketplace and the future battlefield. Germany became a global innovator in the social sphere, providing workers with pensions and health care long before others. The population surged from 41 to 68 million, reflecting a nation in rapid transition. Yet, the path from iron and blood led ultimately to a catastrophic global conflict. The Great War loomed on the horizon, ready to destroy the very empire Bismarck had so carefully built.